afternoon, everyone. My name is Chris Everett. I am a Systems Transformation Strategist. If you look on the screen, you can tell we make up our own title, so just don't worry about that. It is systems level leadership, though. So the conversation today really is about, well, really this whole weekend is really thinking through the system, and the conversation that this panel is going to have this afternoon are systems level questions for the most part. So this should be interesting. And I am going to make the first question a pretty easy one. Tell everyone who you are, what your role is, and what district you support or service.
Hey, I'm Tricia Kennedy. I'm with Gwinnett County Public Schools. We're outside of Atlanta, a large district outside of Atlanta. You can see my title there. It's a little meaningless. I basically am in the curriculum area, and I oversee several different programs, including our digital conversion initiative. Oh, you've got one.
Hello, everybody. James Butler, Director of Instructional Technology for Tucson Unified School District. I am honored and privileged to be here, and actually, okay, don't tell anybody. I drove from Arizona just so that I could talk to this lady and steal her best ideas. Okay. Seriously, we got to talk. Okay.
Good afternoon, folks. Jack Kelanic. I am Chief Technology Officer at Dallas Independent School District, and welcome to our hometown.
All right. Well, yep, absolutely. So here's the first question, and we'll just take whoever wants to respond to it first. We'll go with that process. Tell us how you and your school or your schools are being Apptastic by leveraging software to begin carrying the delivery of learning. What is that looking like for each of you?
All right, I'll jump in since I've got home court advantage here today. So first of all, we just had the kind of the triple whammy in Dallas ISD. Last year, we implemented the three big systems that you all probably have and you wrestle with every day, right? So we implemented a brand new student information system, very modern cloud-based platform with a new user interface, some advanced interoperability capabilities, all of that. We implemented a new learning management system as well. That's where we really start to get excited. And in fact, our instructional division built a whole new, rewrote the entire curriculum from the ground up, embedded that in the learning management system, and now we are at the point that we are starting to federate all of those instructional resources, and it's really unlimited, of course, in terms of where we can go with our instructional content. And at the same time, we implemented a digital assessments platform. This year, we're a little bit more focused on identity and access management. Not a terribly sexy topic, but when we think about the future of personalized learning, it turns out that it is actually very important to know who everybody is and how they want to engage with us and what their preferences are. So we're dabbling in that space a little bit this year. We're also, now that we are moving more towards anywhere, anytime type of learning, we're implementing new support capabilities as well. And so we'll be introducing a new support platform. Turns out we don't think our kids are going to want to wait 3 minutes on the phone or call us between the hours of 9 and 5 when they're having issues accessing their instructional resources. So we're going digital in that regard too, with chatbots and things like that.
Take a nap.
All right. So Tucson Unified, just to give you a little context, located in Tucson, Arizona. I know that's a shock. We have about 85 campuses. We just completed a rollout of Office 365, so now all of our students have Office 365 accounts. We have trained the teachers. We are also involved we have 3 schools in the Verizon Innovative Learning Program, whereby, for those of you who may not be familiar with it, each 6th, 7th, and 8th grader of the schools that are accepted into the program receives an iPad, a data package for the iPad, a case for the iPad. All the teachers get iPads, and there's $33,000 towards an instructional coach whose sole job would be to administer the program and provide professional development for the teachers to successfully administer the program. What we found from that was that once upon a time, we used to have a process whereby if a teacher wanted an app, she would fill out this form and just send it to technology. And if it worked on our network, then okay, we'll install the app. Verizon Innovative Learning Program, through that process, has taught us, okay, wait a minute, let's back the truck up a little bit, and let's be a little purposeful about this. So let's have the teachers vet the app at the school site with permission from the principal, who's the instructional leader, checks off and says, yes, I want this as an instructional leader, I approve this app, and then we move forward with will it work on the network, and then the app is approved, rather than let's form a committee once a month and let's have, you know, people who are overly busy anyway to meet once a month, you know, for apps for the whole district, so that we just couldn't figure out how to scale that. So there you go.
Well, in Gwinnett, you're about to hear from me way more than you want to. So I'm going to be sharing with you more about our ecosystem in just a few minutes. So I'll just tell you that I think the things that we're doing that make us on the road to Apptastic, we're not there yet, is we're really committed as a district to a single ecosystem for our teachers and for our students, so that we've done that through a single sign-on portal that you'll get to see some examples from, so that to try to really create a seamless experience for them. Then we've also moved to what I would call a digital preferred model for resource procurement. When I'm talking about textbooks and content, we are flexible in that we don't necessarily always go digital, but if all things are being equal as far as the use, how teachers would use it, its support of our standards, differentiation, student engagement, et cetera, then we want to go with the digital. So we're trying hard to move in more and more into the digital arena. And then we also are really trying to embed digital best practices as just a part of our instructional PD instead of having separate technology PD, and making that it just another way to enhance the instructional practices coming through our core content area, capacity building and staff development.
Thank you all. So the second question is a little bit long, so I'll hang in there with me. Generally, being Apptastic has two levels that come up in most discussions. Teachers being good at using apps in teaching and learning, that's one. And secondly, schools being good at making everything work together to drive learning. So where do you find the most focus? The individual teacher level or the system level in your school and district, and why? Where's your focus lie?
We're going the same order, or do you want to go backwards?
That's fine. I'll go first. So I'd say actually you're talking about, but do we focus on system level kind of build out, or do we focus on teachers and their autonomy? And in Gwinnett, I think we really hold some things tight and other things loose, as meaning that tight at the district level. For instance, we do adopt core resources for all of our courses. So there's a standard textbook/digital core resource that we go through a district-wide process for. And those are included, that also includes our learning management system is district-wide. And so we have an expectation also that teachers are using our scope and sequence, our curriculum maps that we've developed, but they also have a lot of autonomy and flexibility, particularly at the school level. It's probably a little less at the teacher level because we really try to hold to professional learning communities and collaborative instructional planning. So, but at the school level, if they need to supplement, then they have that opportunity, with various apps. We believe that at the district level, what our role is, our curriculum, or to be curriculum experts, and to build our teachers' capacity to then to be, I guess, what I would call the instructional experts, but using the established district-wide curriculum.
If I understood the question correctly, I would have to say we are more at the system level now, and here's why. As you all know, anytime you have more than one piece of software, the question is it going to play in the same sandbox with the other stuff, okay? So we are trying very hard and focused on working to make sure everything works in the same ecosystem or sandbox or what have you, so that when we begin to do the PD or the teacher in the classroom presses that button, does it work every time, or Do I have to log in 15 times and know this one works on this browser, this version of Windows, but it doesn't work on the tablet, but boy, it really works good here. So we're focused on trying to have people focus on what they need to do with the technology, the content, rather than be stressed out as to whether what they're trying to do will work on the device that they have.
And I agree with both of my colleagues here. I think you have to be focused on both. And in our organization, I think maybe you had the opportunity to hear Dr. Shannon Terry, her presentation earlier this morning, but she's my counterpart in the organization that is focused on professional development, coaching, and helping teachers make use of the technology that we're rolling out. My role in the organization is more on, as James just described, making it all work together. And I think both are very challenging jobs, and certainly for any district, but in a large district. And we are moving very quickly. And so it's tough work for all of us, I think, trying to tie all this together.
Yeah. Okay, so let's think about one aspect of what you're talking about as far as trying to manage this ecosystem. An Apptastic school or district should have had a reckoning with which apps are allowed, and James, you talked about this a little bit, in keeping some discipline to ensure there aren't security or privacy problems or just too many apps there for anybody to actually use, right? You end up with this app fatigue or paralysis because we don't know what to actually use for learning. So what are you all doing to manage app bloat?
So I'll start. And I feel fortunate because I think I saw some numbers in the last presentation and some of the articles and the research that there are 5,000 or, some districts have thousands of apps. I don't think we're there. I think we're a little bit more manageable than that. So we probably have several hundred applications that we know about and that we're managing. There probably are hundreds more that we don't know about yet. Tricia touched on something, and one of the ways that we're managing this in Dallas ISD, it kind of triggered it for me, is it's actually part of our theory of action, right? So part of the theory of action in Dallas ISD is managed instruction with earned empowerment, and we built curriculum as part of the managed instruction, and we built instructional applications as part of the earned empowerment, if you will. So we have a core of apps that are available to everybody, every teacher, every school in our district, and then we too, like James described, we have established processes, maybe not always the most efficient process. I would love to make those processes more efficient, but processes that teachers can go ahead and they can start to explore with different instructional apps. They can come in and we will take a kind of a cross-functional review of those applications. We are looking at privacy, we are looking at security, and then we enable those in our ecosystems, and we have the management tools to push them out very quickly once we get through that review process. The privacy and security piece is tough. That's where I go from being Apptastic to apoplectic a little bit. I'm probably one of the few people in this room that actually reads every privacy statement for every app that comes across my desk, and I see about between a half dozen and a dozen a week. I mean, we could have a whole panel discussion, I think, on that. I don't want to derail the progress here, but it is a very rich topic and something I think we need to figure out going forward.
So for us, going back to, thankfully, going through this Verizon Innovative Learning Program, we kind of use that as an incubator for what can we scale moving forward. So going from 3 schools to, okay, let's apply this to all of our schools. So one of the things we do is, again, not only with that process that I mentioned earlier, but I know this is a shock to people, but do y'all know teachers talk? I know that's a shock to people. So teachers also talk about, I tried this app, it's fantastic, or I tried this and it was a hot mess, so whatever you do, don't do it. We have a lot of that going on, particularly what we're finding in people are talking in their PLCs with regard to apps that have to do with, well, I want to teach math, well, you may want to try this. So thankfully, with that conversation going on, and that you can scale that utilizing something like Office 365 or Google Classrooms, where people can cross-collaborate across geographic lines, then you start to build a critical mass of it sort of organically grows as far as what's working in our district for our kids and what's not.
Those are great thoughts. I'll spend more time telling you what we're doing as far as the individual teacher selection. Like Jack said, we have that same theory of action. So we don't have a lot that we've actually pushed out, software, applications, content packages from the district level. I mean, we do have a lot, that's relative, but not nearly as many as what teachers are going out there and finding as well. So for the district level, we have very extensive architectural review board, content review, curriculum review before we select any digital content, any applications that we use. But 4 years ago, we developed a data governance division in the district because of the because of security and privacy concerns around a lot of the just web-based tools that were being used. So we have really ramped up that approval process, and now we have actually on our portal that teachers can get to a link to a database that shows every app that has been vetted through the district process, and it tells them if it has been like rejected, don't use this, or if it has been, it's okay if you use it with a generic login only, or it's okay if you have student accounts. So it kind of goes through those kind of 3 levels, and it's been massive. It's been a massive undertaking, but we were really scared not to do it. So we're hoping we've avoided some things by going down that path.
One of the things I think is really interesting to think about is for all of the steps that are being taken, you can add this first level filter if you really know what the learner experience that you want to have with kids in every classroom every day. If you really define that and truly understand what that means from a human perspective, right? How you want them to feel, what are the skills you wanting them to develop, then first level filter can be, does this app facilitate any of that? Right? Does it actually accomplish any of that? As opposed to what sometimes happens is we go to a conference and there's, I'm technically a vendor, so somebody has a conversation with a vendor and it's got this thing that sounds and looks really good, then we want it. Right? Then we have to go through this long line of logistics to determine if we can use it or not. And that first filter might eliminate some of that, even just to keep from you having to read 10 or 12, maybe you only have to read 8. User agreements, which those things are scary, by the way. I don't even understand half of what I'm reading, so that's bad. Okay, question 4. Nope, 3, sorry. Nope, 4. A lot of school and district leaders are tasked with trying to integrate, we've talked about this a little bit, trying to integrate everything to get analytics back to administrators. So, since there are thousands of apps in play, what are your thoughts as to what integrations can and should be done, or what are your thoughts about analytics as a whole?
So we've integrated a lot of stuff in Gwinnett, but we haven't really started capitalizing on getting the analytics back out of all those systems that we've integrated. So we're still thinking and working on that. We move a little bit slowly because of some of our processes and procedures. But I'll tell you what I'd like to have. What I feel like we need is student performance analytics much more than I need usage analytics. I kind of chosen not to go down the usage path. We need student performance data back from any application that our students are out working in. But I don't need it just to come back and tell me if they mastered these particular skills. I need it to tell me if they mastered my district and state learning standards. So I needed to come back attached to my learning standards, and then I need to be able to aggregate across all of those different applications, and us as a district say, well, this is what mastery looks like. This is the threshold that we are looking for across all of that data on student performance that we've got on our standards. That's what I'm looking for. And I think folks are starting to move in that area, but I'll give you a little plug. Unless we get all of our state standards in a format that all of our suppliers and vendors can read and don't have to change every time we move from supplier to supplier, how we ingest that. I don't think we're ever going to get there, so that's a plug for a standard, and we at IMS Global Consortium are working on that. It's called CASE, so I'd love for you to find out more about that and really encourage your departments of ed to go in that pathway. That's my IMS buddies.
I think for not having a very long background in data, all I can tell you is what I see. And what's interesting to me is different departments, different entities of a school district may need different types of data, as you all know. Well, if you use product A may say, well, you know, we can provide you with this data. Then you get product A, and it's used for the director of something, 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 whatever it is, right? Then that person says, well, I needed to do this. Oh, well, we can't do that. Oh, no. So I think in my data fantasy world, it would be really nice to have, it seems like that products that we're privy to in our district they aren't as customizable as we would like them to be in order to get the data that we need for customized reports. And it seems like it takes forever, or you have to go through an act of Congress with some of these people to get the actual report that you need rather than the standard reports that they happen to have.
So I think the good news is all the technology that we need to do this right exists. And I agree with Leilani's vision about consumerization, that we've seen it happen with Google and Uber and all these other digital giants. It can happen here too, right? So all of the mobile apps that we're using, they all exist in the cloud. They're all based on, they all have APIs and microservice capabilities and interoperability. The thing is, we've been focused on kind of one-way integration, right? We build out our class rosters and we're able to do that. That's one of the reasons we invested in a modern SIS, is so that we can start to do these things, and we are doing them. But we've been focused on one-way integration, just pushing it out to the mobile, to the individual apps. And then we use those apps for whatever instructional purposes. We gather data there. We manage the data there. And that is getting too cumbersome, I think, and burdensome for organizations. And so I think the future is going to depend on reversing that integration and being able to take the data back out of these applications, consolidate it into some sort of data warehouse, if you will, or some sort of probably cloud-based data store that the school districts manage, and then starting to make sense of that data in real time and drive the instructional decisions. And that's where I think personalization is really going to start to come to life, and we're really going to start to play at scale. But I think we really do need to start talking about two-way integration.
That's great. And I appreciate that you said we have it available, right? It's just a matter of figuring out, how does it come together? How does it work? There was in a session earlier today that the gentleman said, and he clearly had a good handle on analytics and data science, and he said, maybe we should be asking different questions. Maybe we're not asking the right questions, right? Those kinds of things that can help flesh out exactly what we're talking about to even get there.
And if I could add one thing, I would say that, building capabilities, you mentioned something, or actually Albert mentioned something about building capabilities, is really important, because I think the digital giants, the Ubers of the world, they are building these capabilities, hiring data developers, hiring integration specialists. Traditionally, we haven't had those capabilities in K-12, and it's time that we do. I can tell you just a quick story that I went to my superintendent not 2 weeks ago, asking for additional resources and data developers, and it was supported, right? But I think we do need to invest in those types of resources in our organizations.
Do either of you have those kinds of positions in data scientists or data-focused analytics kind of folks? Yeah.
On a small scale, yeah.
Small scale. Great. Okay, question 5 is this. In the Learning Council's Apptastic special report, the idea of the separation of workflow from systems and content apps is introduced. The thought is that personal learning is guided by independent workflow. We heard Leilani talk about that a little bit just prior to this. So what do you envision could happen between curriculum and technology to automate things that trigger the next workflow for an individual student automatically, or trigger a cohort of students to aggregate into a class, and the teacher gets an auto calendar alert and so forth, things like that? What are your thoughts about where we could be headed?
So I'll give you a real world example, although it didn't happen in a fully automated fashion. We have a racial equity office that is studying data across our district to figure out how kids are doing. And yes, we're starting to drill into why certain kids are not doing well, why students of color are not achieving at the same level as other kids, and how do we solve that problem. And one of the things they found was our African American students were not participating in AP courses and taking the AP exams right at the same level as other kids. So we backtracked from there. Well, why is that happening? Well, it's because they're not enrolled in the pre-AP math courses. Well, why is that happening? So we tracked it back further all the way to some of the data that we have about these kids, and turns out there was a giant missed opportunity. These kids they're performing at or above grade level in 5th grade, but we weren't picking up on it, and we weren't building it into our scheduling algorithms to actually put them in the pre-AP coursework in 6th grade. So we corrected that. We went back, and we did this manually, of course, but we corrected our scheduling algorithms, and now we're putting those kids on a path. And I think 3, 4, 5 years from now, you're really going to see the results of that work. But that's the type of work that I think can happen in real time as the technology gets better and better. And I think that artificial intelligence will be a game changer here, because I think there's just so much data to sort through. It's more than a human can do. Right, it's more than a teacher can do. We just have so many data points that we're collecting, so we are going to need to figure out how to automate. I think we're going to have to figure out how to leverage artificial intelligence. I went to a technology conference recently, and I was surprised at how many organizations are already starting their pilot initiatives in artificial intelligence, including higher ed. And so I was encouraged that we need to get on the ball as well.
So currently as Director of Instructional Technology, my role falls under the Technology Department in Tucson Unified. There is a separate department that does curriculum. One of the things that we're working towards is trying to ensure that not only do we not work in silos, but when somebody says, let's go to a technology conference, curriculum says, oh good, that's not us. Well, no, it is, because everything's based on technology. So therefore, how about we all work together in the professional development, in curriculum and technology, go to the same professional development so that we all can agree on what the data says, because we've all had the same PD, rather than do this in silos. So I think that's one of the things I'm very excited that we're working towards.
I think you're going to have a lot more people at Learning Council next year from your district, right? So, question around workflow. I cannot help but think about Amazon, and Leilani and I were sharing when we were out in the hallway that we basically have our own private Amazon delivery car that shows up at our doors probably every other day or so. Because Amazon knows me well and follows a great workflow, it tells me what it thinks that I need to buy next, because it looks like I bought it a while ago and I'm going to need some more of it. And it tells me the things that I've always wanted but I never knew even existed. And so, that's the technology that's available to us right now that we haven't really capitalized on in the education workplace. And as far as the workflow, I really love what Leilani says about the simplicity, because I know I live in a really complex environment at the district. But, think about what our teachers do. Shouldn't this be the workflow that the technology can help us with? Our teachers know their standards well. They know what the expectations are for students to demonstrate our standards. They then identify or create assessments in a variety of formats that will help them know when their students have learned those standards, can demonstrate the standard at the mastery level needed. They give those, they have their instruction, they give the assessments, they look for the gaps, And then they go out and find additional instructional activities that can fill those gaps, even for individual students. And they're doing that every day, but they're doing it themselves, and they're doing it by curating their own content and setting up their own learning lesson plans. Wouldn't it be awesome if Amazon of Education could help them in all of those steps, and so that all they had to do then was be the instructional experts and deliver that to their students? That would be the utopia that we're looking for, I think.
Yeah, I think the real message there is there's exciting times coming, right? I think it can look a lot of different ways. It can be really, really unique in context that we can help really transform the experience for kids in a way that is going to make sense for the world that the only thing we can guarantee them is that they're going to go out and the world is going to be unpredictable. That's really all we can guarantee. So, what that experience can become to help prepare them for that, it's exciting. I think I want to say thank you to the three of you. I think we know that as we begin to transition, these are three leaders that are going to lead the way, that are going to have great things to do in that context as everyone starts to make that shift. So if you'll join me in thanking them for their time and responses today.